So today is a truck day. Got some work that I need to get done on this. Shops, this truck absolutely dominates my poor shop. This side is about 22 to 23 feet long and about 14 feet wide. There's a lot of stuff on the sides which doesn't help with that. But if I get the truck pulled in all the way, basically if the bumper is touching the wall, the door has about 2 inches behind it, so it's pretty full. But what I'm going to be working on today is this here. So this truck has tow mirrors on it, but they are the incorrect ones. Well, this one is correct. So this one is correct for the truck. It's got the heated mirror, it's got the signal lights, but the problem is that this cover came off down here, and unfortunately trying to recover one of those to put on there, it's very difficult. I've looked all over Amazon, eBay, and I can't find one. So I figured, well, I'll just end up replacing it. So what I did is I found another set of tow mirrors, and the other side, which you can see here, it's very tilted this way because this mirror is actually the wrong one for this truck, and you can see how much gap is down in here. But if you look on this side, you can see down here it's been cut, and you can see here there's a giant gap, and then these two lines up here as well. My best case scenario is that this truck or this mirror is probably from a 07 and newer style vehicle and not the year of this body, and they do differ. So going to get busy on the mirrors. Once I have it going, I will bring you guys back. So luckily the mirrors on these trucks are pretty easy to take off. You just pop this cover off, and you can just usually just put your hands in there and just give it a bit of a tug and come off like so. It does have a small catch on the bottom, so generally what you'll want to do is pull the top off and then pop up this way. And there's a little piece of foam here, and then inside there's just a bunch of nuts, and those are 10 mil. So when you undo these nuts, leave one on. If you don't, this whole thing can fall out. So what I usually do is just leave the top one on, and then what you'll need to do is behind this panel, you can usually just pop off the switch. Will be the leads, which you can see there's a wire right here. You can either pull the door out, and you'll have to untake it from the switch. So unplug the switch, you can usually pull the panel out enough, and you can usually slide that through. So you can see I popped out the switch, and then on the back side you can see all the connectors. And what you'll find generally is this blue connector here, and I want to say it's the black one. No, so it's this blue in here and this black one down here, and when you take those two out, that's the lead for the mirror, this wire here, and then you can just pull it out. So unfortunately, despite best efforts, I did have to pull the switch, I did have to pull the door apart, and then basically from there, mirror's in here. So I'll put the mirror in, bolt it up, and then I'll show you what it looks like finished on this side. So you can see I got everything back together, and you can see that the mirror is working. And what you can see is that it's got these ones are a little bit different than the OEM style too. You can see this one doesn't have the outside flasher part that you're seeing here. So it's got the inside flasher on the glass, it's got the outside flasher here, and so that when they're extended, it gives you just a little bit of extra coming up the side, so people can see a little better. So I got one more side that I need to do. I gotta do the driver's side. I'll get that one done, show you what that one looks like, and then yeah, we'll go from there. All right, so this side is done. So you can see it's working on the mirror nicely, and you can see it's coming off the side, and you can see from over here. So driver's side is done. So I've owned this truck for about a year or so, and this is the first time I've had properly functioning mirrors on both sides. Now, I know that if people watch this, the one thing that you're going to say is, right now, instead of my mirror being like this, it's like this. So they're going to say, level your mirrors. Well, I will. Just right now, I'm just happy to have some properly functioning mirrors on this truck that work properly with the proper signal lights and everything, because like I said, I'm going camping here shortly, so I'll be hauling, you know, a 26-foot trailer behind this truck. I want to make sure I can see behind me, and I want to make sure people can see when I'm turning and doing stuff. So it's probably been, I don't know, about a week and a half since I put my new mirrors on the truck. Where I last ended, I said, you know, I wasn't going to be too overly concerned about the tilt of the mirrors. Well, after I installed these mirrors and I was out driving, I noticed right away that with the angle of these mirrors, what I was finding is that the actual glass of the mirror itself was at such a way, it almost felt awkward, sort of dangerous trying to drive, because the mirrors wouldn't always or necessarily adjust all the way out. So I decided, you know what, I'm actually going to do this. And what I found was that it wasn't very difficult. But what I want to show here is a couple of things. So if you take a look at the driver's mirror right now, you can see how tilted up that one is. And then if you come over here and look at the passenger, you can see how much more level it is. And I've already worked on the passenger side just to see how much of a difference it would make. And to be honest, it was quite a difference. And I'll show you why. So if you take an angle meter here and we wait till it sort of settles out, you can see that this mirror is almost, you know, 8 degrees, 9 degrees tilted upwards. So, you know, if 0 was here, you know, it's pointed up by almost 9 degrees. So that's a considerable amount of angle that these mirrors get pointed up. And if I come over here to the passenger side and I let it settle out, you can see that it's about 1, maybe 2 degrees angled up. And to be honest, 1 or 2 degrees is fairly what I would find, and what I found a good compromise for that. And so because I had already worked on the passenger side, I figured, you know, I tried doing some searching on this, and while I found a lot of videos about how, you know, to level out your mirror like I did here in my passenger one, you know, there was a lot of details that were missing. And a few of those things I'll kind of touch base here, and then I'll go and work on the driver's side, and I'll show you kind of what's going on. So the stock nuts, or the stock bolts I should say, in this are M6 by 1.0. I don't know the exact length of them, but what I found, and what I found after doing some reading, was that if you go and get M6 by 25 at 1.0 thread, you'll notice that they're slightly longer. And this really helps when you're dealing with the washers and such. So the other thing that I picked up was M6 just lock washers, and I use those on the outside of the bolt. So when I'm putting this on, it ends up looking like this. And then the other thing is, and this is where, you know, depending on your mirrors and depending on how much angle you want or what you don't want, just pick up some standard flat washers. 6 mils is what I used. On this one, I used 4, so there was 2 bolts on the top, and on both of those bolts, I used 2 washers each per side. So that gave me the angle there of, like I was showing, like 1 or 2 degrees. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on this side, and I'm going to do the same thing, and then I'll show you what I do. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about how to do this, but basically you got to pop this cover off. It's the most daunting thing, because you kind of gotta pull it out and then pop it off. There's lots of videos on that, so I'm not going to go into too much depth. Once I get the cover off, I'll show you the 2 bolts, and then I'll show you another little trick that I found about doing this. So one of the tricks that I found while doing my search is, if you take just some standard painter's tape or whatever you have, what I found is if you take a little bit of this tape And basically what you want to do is you take your two washers and you basically just take your tape and you're taping them together. Like so. And then basically you take some scissors or a knife or whatever you have on hand. You can kind of cut off the excess and basically make it so it's like a little flag. Take your bolt push it through like so, and then in a minute I'll show you why this is helpful for. So once you have the cover off, you'll see there's 4 bolts. There's 2 on the bottom and there's 2 on the top. And what you want to do is just loosen these 2 lower ones off, because you don't want this to fall. If you pull all 4 of these out, this whole entire thing will come off and basically fall off the truck. So loosen these 2 off on the bottom, and then you can take out these top 2, and then that's where the new bolts will go. And I'll show you that in just a second. So one of the things you want to be careful of is that once you've got, one of the things you want to be careful of is once you have these 2 lowers and these upper ones out, there's a lot of movement in here. So you just want to kind of rest it and just find that perfect spot that it won't fall or do anything. And then what you want is to go grab your longer bolt, grab your little washer flag, and then why this works is you basically stick this in between like so, and it allows it to basically keep the washer from falling. You can use needle nose pliers, but on the passenger side I did drop 2. So I'll get this one going and then I'll bring you guys back. So here's a good example of why having a degree meter will work well. So this is the passenger side, which again, as you can see, is probably around the 1 to 2 degrees. And that was only 2 washers on that side. If I come over to this side, I also put 2 washers in here. And if we look at the angle, once it settles in, you'll notice that it's about 5 degrees. So you can tell that even with the same amount of washers from one side to the other, that, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean that your angle is going to be the same from one side to the other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the driver's side bolts out on this side here, and I'm going to put 2 more washers behind it, and then I'm going to check that angle again. So as of right now, after putting 3 washers on this side, you can see how much more or less I'm at now. So I'm about 3 degrees now, maybe 4ish, and I'm not going to go much further than that. The spot where the bolts go into is very soft pot metal, and I'm afraid that if I take those nuts and bolts, those bolts out too many times, then I'm just going to end up stripping it, and then I'm going to end up having to replace the mirror, and I don't want to do that. So it's staying where it's at. So the last thing that you have to take care of is the plastic cover. And basically for this, this goes on the truck. So this is the front, and then this is the back. So if we go over to the driver's side here, and we go to set it on here, you'll see that it fits on there like so. And what happens is that when you put those washers in there, it tilts the mirror down, and when it tilts the mirror down, it applies pressure into this area here, and you can see that there's a bit of a lip in there. And so basically all you want to do is you just want to shave that down. You can use a knife, sander, or whatever you got. I just use a pair of sharp scissors and just shave it down, and you just shave it down until it can just get back in there and it clips in place, and then that makes sure it won't fall out. So I'll take care of that, and then you'll see the finished product. Okay, so both sides are done. That one's a lot lower, and that one's a lot lower. I'm gonna say the passenger side is just slightly lower than the driver's side, but I don't care enough to really bother me, and I'm not gonna really care that much. You can see I got the cover back in place. Now I do find that depending on how much you lower this and how much you shave off of here and etc., you may see a bit more of a gap in here. I don't really know if there's going to be a better way to fix that or not. You can see on this side, it doesn't look that bad. And you can see if you look on the passenger side, more of the passenger side, you can see there's a little bit more of a gap in here, but not much that I'm really going to worry about. I also realized when I filmed this the first time that one of the things that I said was that you can take this out. Well, in my truck, on both sides, the driver's side and the passenger side, this whole door panel has been mangled or whatever in the past, and this isn't actually supposed to come out. This is supposed to come out with the entire door panel, and it doesn't. So when you're doing this, or if you're watching this video and you see me do that, don't do it yourself unless you know it's broken, because it's not supposed to happen. So so the tow mirrors, I would say, simple enough project. Some things you got to be aware of. I would definitely suggest picking up something like an angle meter, just so that you can kind of, you know where you're sitting when you're doing this, to kind of get a better idea. Be aware of the mounts for the mirror, soft metal, very easy to strip. When I was working on the passenger side, one of the bolts was already stripped from manufacturing, so I had to fix that. So just some small things to be aware of when you're doing this, but other than that, I'd say this is a pretty simple job. Shouldn't take anyone too much time. Just, take your time when you're pulling the bolts out. Don't let it drop down too far. And yeah, if you have any questions or anything that you may see that I could have done differently or better, just post it below in the comments and let me know. From here, I still got a few more things I need to do to the truck before we go on our trip camping. You can see here as an example, I got to put the dash. The dash has to be all put back together from the blend door motor issues that I was having. I discovered that there's a hole in my heater box, which the AC likes to drip into the cab, so I'll have to fix that, and just some small stuff like that. But for now, that's it, and we'll see you in the next one.